I would reject that in its totality. We really are, and this is all about the people of Impala, the people of Implats. If employees choose another union, that's their choice. It really has nothing to do with us, and we have to work within what our employees want.
But it is interesting now that you've always been different at Impala. You've always done things your own way, and now you are engaging with AMCU where others are trying to get away from AMCU. Do you think this could be the new future, an apolitical union rather than one that's highly politicized?
Yeah, I don't know of other companies who are trying to get away from AMCU. The fact of the matter is they're the new union on the block, and we have to work within that. I mean, people are perfectly entitled to join any union of their choice, and on that basis we work within it.
We hear, though, from the gold side that they want 150% salary increases. Is that posturing, or are you expecting a more rational approach in your discussions?
My sense is, I mean, the demands are pretty common across the whole industry, and what's been put on the table for us is no different from what's been put on the table for many of the other companies. In a sense, I think it would be posturing. If we were to go to those sorts of numbers, there's absolutely no ways we could survive as an industry, and I think that would be gold and platinum. So I think some sort of rationality has to come to the fore.
You've had a tough year on your costs as it is. Unit costs up 24%. That's way above inflation, even above mining inflation. How are you going to get those under control?
The biggest driver for us is volumes. Notwithstanding that we control consumables very well in this company. I mean, inflation on consumables was around about 6% this last year. Power, it was 10%, and of course there's not much we can do about that other than energy efficiency. But it's on the labour side where we have the big challenge. So notwithstanding what ultimately we negotiate, I think the bottom line for us is to restore those volumes, because that's the denominator in terms of our unit costs. And if we restore the volumes, which we're planning to do at Rustenburg over the next 5 years with all of the new shafts coming in, then of course our unit costs should at least not increase at the rates that you've seen.
Well, you're certainly still showing a lot of confidence in the future. 6.5 billion rands worth of capital expenditure in this past year, another 5.5 in the year coming. So clearly you do see a brighter future.
Yeah, we believe in the fundamentals of the business. We believe in the metals. If you look at the fundamentals underlying what drives demand for platinum group metals, it's still positive. And yes, there are other factors that affect metal prices. We need to take cognizance of those. In other words, what's happening with the electronically traded funds and the like. But at the end of the day, we need to replace our old shafts, and thus the requirement to spend the capital that we do. At the moment, and within the next 5 years, we're probably going to close another 4, 5, 6 shafts, which will be depleted, and you need new shafts to replace that.
It's interesting, going back a few years, it wasn't under your watch, but Impala and other platinum companies, when times were good, gave a lot of capital away to shareholders through special dividends. With hindsight, might it not have been more sensible to hold on to some of that, given that you now have to replenish the old shafts?
Yeah, I suppose with hindsight it's actually very easy, and if we look at what happened, we could probably do with a couple of billion that could have been kept. But that said, that was due to the shareholders, and at the end of the day, I think we are positioned such that we can continue to invest. Maybe not quite as much as we'd like to, because we have in this last year slowed down our new 17 shaft. I've put in a 2-year delay now because we can't afford all of the capital, and it would be nice to have had a couple of billion extra to advance that project.
But you're still paying dividends?
Yes, we are.
What's the purpose behind that?
We believe in the fundamentals of the market. We believe that what we are doing in terms of our production and our cost controls, and the fact that we've raised a convertible bond, we have something like 4.5 billion in cash to tide us over should the market go haywire. And at the end of the day, we believe that we could afford to pay a dividend.
Was there debate in your board about perhaps, given this big capital expenditure program, not paying a dividend this year?
Yes, there is debate. I mean, one has to have applied diligence to the finances of the company, and it was decided then that we would pay based upon our policy. And recently, in last year, we did change our policy. So we went from 2 times cover to 3.5 times cover, and we thought that's what we've put out to our shareholders, and we should pay with respect. We should pay in accordance with that policy.
Terence, the other issue as far as Impala's challenges are concerned is Zimbabwe. You're still investing capital there, 1.1 billion in this year. Other people outside of Zimbabwe would be again scratching their heads on the strategy that you're adopting given the indigenization issues.
Yeah, we started with phase 2, which is part of the Implats expansion some years back. We've already committed over $350 million to that project. To stop that project now would be nonsensical. We commissioned it in April. We're in the build-up at that mine, and it just makes sense to finish that phase. That would take Implats up to 270,000 ounces per annum. And the bulk of the expenditure on that project right now is all about development. It's all about revenue, because the plant is in essence complete.
That's fine from the operational side, but the political side, we have most Western publications say that the election was rigged. Certainly there are people, leading Zimbabweans, who think the same way. You have indigenization term sheets that you talk about in your SENS report, which now have to be, quote, revisited, unquote. It seems untenable.
Well, I think I've got to keep a positive mind here. It's important for not only for Zimbabwe that we operate there, because we do create wealth for that country. And ultimately, if you look at what goes into the fiscus, just from Implats alone, it is significant. It approaches $100 million per annum if you take direct and indirect costs plus royalties. So that's a positive. And for me, I've always said failure is not an option. Let's see if we can make this work rather than walk away. So I can't say that I'm confident, but we do need to have those discussions with the new government.
Are you able to repatriate any funds? Dividends, etc.?
Yeah, if we got into that space. Right now it's been pretty capital intensive. But if you look at the Mimosa operation, we do repatriate dividends.
How much have you put into Zimbabwe so far?
It's probably approaching $1 billion.
$1 billion US?
Yeah.
So you are so far down the line, I guess you just got to hope for the best.
Yeah, I think the phase 1 was very successful. The mine is very successful. You know, the phase 2, which is a $490 million project. As I said earlier, we've already spent 350, we're probably approaching 400 million, and it makes sense to complete it. To not gain something out of it would be ridiculous.
Just to close off with, the PGM prices also were under pressure, so it's almost like a perfect storm against you in this past financial year. Is there any light at the end of that particular tunnel? From a pricing perspective, I think there is still the overhang on how much is out there, what are the above ground stocks, which I think is depressing the prices. The underlying fundamentals are still strong. I suppose the $1 million question is, where's the rand going to end up? It's weak now, and that's quite good for us. So in dollar terms, the prices were pretty static year on year, but the rand weakened by 14% over the last year, and I suppose we should be thankful that it did, because if it didn't, we'd be in even a worse position than we are now. So there is some hope when you have a look into the 2014 financial year. Yes, I mean, we've got to batten down the hatches. We've got to go to the grassroots. I mean, one of the big things we're going to do with our workforce this year is a whole team mobilization effort. And if you think of the sheer quantum of teams that we have to look at, there's over 500 stoping teams alone that we need to mobilize, get them into the right mindset from a safety perspective as well as a productivity perspective, and then let's see what we can do.